Roll for Crit is made possible thanks to the support of viewers like you and our patrons on our Patreon page.
You can become a patron for just $1 a month at patreon.com/rollforcrit.
Hurry, there's no time. We've got so many Kickstarters to take a look at in this week's Kickstarter Pickstarter for September 21st, 2020.
The 7th Citadel has launched from Serious Pulp. This is their follow-up to the 7th Continent. It's a standalone sequel to that game, takes place in a wholly original post-apocalyptic medieval world in which your character has just escaped as the slave of this horrible citadel, but now as you enter the rest of the world, you're finding new threats that you have to contend with. If you are familiar with the 7th Continent, you'll probably be right at home with most of this. It uses the same basic rules, same basic system. You'll be exploring new cards, and as you go, revealing them to discover new things, new enemies you might encounter. You're going to be drawing cards from your deck, trying to push your luck to see how successfully you can carry out actions, but trying to be conservative if possible, so as not to run through your entire deck and have negative consequences. Some of the big changes in this one, they said there's going to be less of a focus on the survival elements. So not as much about the crafting or having to hunt for food to survive, more of an emphasis on pure exploration, it sounds like, as well as now interacting with NPCs. There's going to be a whole book you can read in this one. When you meet a character, you can decide what you want to say to them. There's almost a Fallout or Mass Effect style dialogue tree. You can decide if you want to say something that is diplomatic or aggressive, and it'll tell you which page you need to turn to get a response to that and see how that will impact what happens to your character. There's also going to be things that you carry with you from game to game. So it's sort of a campaign style thing, not a legacy game, but as you play, you'll be unlocking new abilities and skills. New things will come into play that may change depending on how you ended your last quest, so to speak. So a lot of big new stuff. The 7th Continent is one of our favorite games ever, and this looks like it's picking up right where that left off. And in fact, I'm really excited because while I did extremely enjoy, I really liked the 7th Continent and everything that it had to offer. Some of that survival stuff was a little cumbersome, and sometimes, the thing that I liked about it was really just exploring and just finding new things. And it sounds like this is going to go even harder in that direction, and with now characters you can talk to, be more story focused, maybe more narrative focused, and I'm really excited to see exactly how that all shakes out.
There were some things where, like characters, you may come across some people or animals, and depending on what you had and stuff, they read different things. I have a feeling they're doing the book now because it saves on cards, so you don't have to shuffle through okay, I need card number 712. It's easier to just flip through a book, but I'm absolutely excited. Like you said, Jonathan, this was one of our favorite games. The kind of stuff we want to see is just this system with more stories, and they're like, well, here you go. Exploration,
Yeah.
That's the thing we love because even though the survival maybe was a little tedious at times, I didn't mind it too much. Plus, unlike some other games, you still could use it to mostly explore a lot. I never felt it was too hard to do that. Now it's just well, let's just up that exploration notch now.
Yeah. And I'm really curious to see exactly how the stuff you unlock as you go, what that entails exactly, and how different that aspect of it feels. Also the fact that, again, it's original. It's not, you're no longer playing as Amelia Earhart or whatever. It's their own cool fantasy stuff, and they're going to have a whole new set of weird monsters to fight. I think combat is going to be a little bit different in this one too. There's the monsters, there's a die you use, and that tracks the monster's health in essence. Interesting stuff. You can take a look at the Kickstarter page to see it for yourself. They are doing a similar thing that they ended up doing with 7th Continent, where if you want the full-on version of this game, it's only going to be available through Kickstarter, whereas later on they're going to, at retail release, what they call the Classic Edition, which will be a slightly pared-down version of that experience. So for the full thing right now, you can back it for around $82 US.
For a while, Pandasaurus Games has been hinting and teasing at their two new games, Dinosaur World and Dinosaur Island Rawr. They have now hit Kickstarter, so we're going to tell you about them because obviously it'd be a pick of mine. It has dinosaurs. So let's start off with Dinosaur World. In the world of Dinosaur Island, the parks have been shut down for quite some time, but of course, dinosaurs make money, and you know companies aren't going to avoid that. So, the way this game works is you are opening new parks after the islands have been closed down for a while, and you're first going to actually draft cards with workers on them. They'll have workers in different colors that let you do different things, of course. And then you'll actually be buying tiles. These tiles will help build up your park, something similar to Suburbia of placing them together and getting bonuses for being adjacent. They'll also have your dinosaur pens and they'll be specific. So there is a tile that says Triceratops. And you will then move your park guests around for them to tour the island and see things. And if they land on a dinosaur space, you actually will roll a die to see if anything bad happens. So the island's a little bit safer. And I don't know how many of the people sneaking into the park there are going to be, but we'll see if they're able to make it out alive either way. Now, Rawr and Write is, you can probably guess, a roll and write for Dinosaur Island. You'll be rolling dice, check marking to get different official people to help you. And there's actually a grid you'll be drawing on to build parks and roads. And you're going to have to try to plan your park well enough to sort of see if you can fit as much in there as possible. And of course, dinosaurs with the roll and write sounds really cool. And sticking with the theme, I should also point out that the Dinosaur World has a solo mode, and it lists it as Kickstarter timed exclusive. So if you do miss out on this, you will have the chance to get the solo mode sometime later on, which I really do like. The Kickstarter exclusives all seem to be like really nice meatball, but you're not going to miss out on a game mechanic, which to me is very important.
Yeah, I'm fully on board for both of these games. I really like the way they have the hex tiles and your little Jeep that drives around on it. Looks like it expands to a world, so to speak. It looks like a little bit more in depth. It looks like it'll make me, I think, feel more immersed. Like, oh yeah, my park really looks like a park now. I'm excited for that. And of course, the roll and write also just sounds fun. It's that one's a little bit less ambitious probably than World, which is going to be, I assume, a big game. But I wonder how if you're as excited for it, because it does look still pretty similar to Island, but maybe do you think this one will be better than Island? Do you already think they'll kind of just be very different things once you play them?
I'll need to obviously try it out first, but I will say that the tile system looks a lot better, and it seems the tiles have a bit more interesting things to them. It's not just, food to make money or something like that. Like there's going to be adjacency bonuses. That's why I mentioned Suburbia. I think we're going to see more things like, for each park that has a roller coaster, or this wants to be near these kinds of like that extra complexity, which I think will make building a lot more fun. And of course, then planning out your Jeep ride to see like, oh, we'll hit this point. So if I go this way, it's not simply just getting people to go into your park. So it feels like they went, okay, what are some other mechanics we can add on to this now to spice things up? And it sounds like it could be different enough for me. I mean, I like dinosaurs, so they already pretty much got me on the theme there. But I think from a strictly mechanical standpoint, this could be enough. Once again, we'll need to do a final playthrough. The roll and write, I definitely think, is a safer bet because it's different. It's going to be a lot lighter even than the two-player one. If I played that on a stream, you can probably find the video of that. I think we still have that up. But it still took up a lot of table space. So even though it's a two-player game and stuff, it still felt pretty big. And so a roll and write, I think, will have a lot less space and be a welcome to people who maybe just want like something a little bit smaller. And obviously, is there a roll and write that doesn't have a solo mode?
There probably are a few out there.
Maybe, but I'm
King
almost
Domino Duel. It's a strictly two-player affair.
But I think that's probably a safe bet too. I didn't even think about looking for that one to have a solo mode. But overall, I still think, take a look at it. If you feel like it's too close with what you already have and you haven't experienced everything, you can wait. The Kickstarter timed exclusive of the solo mode, so you don't have to feel too punishing. They're being very generous there. If you're just looking for the Rawr and Write, that's going to be $30, while Dinosaur World, it'll be at $70. If you get both together, you'll save $5 and only have to pay $95.
The Thing is back with a new board game adaptation. It's John Carpenter's 1984 classic, now reimagined in tabletop form by Pendragon Game Studio. It's The Thing, the board game. That's the title, so you don't confuse it with any other The Thing board games out there. And it takes place during the time of the movie. It's a recreation of those events. All players will be going around the base, and you are trying to fix different areas of the base, maintain things, make sure you have enough fuel, and etc. But of course, one of you could and will be the Thing, and depending on who goes where with whom, you may end up being assimilated and becoming another member of this evil alien thing race. There are also going to be dogs around that might be able to attack or infect you, so you got to worry about that. And there's also an aspect where you can, at the end of each round, accuse other players that you think may be the Thing, and everybody has a suspicion level. So that's something that as the game goes on, you can see who people are most suspicious of. Now, it's hard for me to really talk about this one too much without talking about The Thing Infection at Outpost 31, which was the previous The Thing board game that Mondo put out. And because, I mean, for one thing, it looks very similar. If you just look at the board, I mean, I don't know if there's like a licensed approved layout of the base they're using, because it looks almost identical. But it seems like where this one differs a little is a little bit more of an emphasis on the Thing itself in terms of what they can do and how they do it. There's actually a mode in this one where the Thing can reveal itself if it wants to. And a revealed Thing actually has different actions, sort of like a Cylon in Battlestar Galactica, where on their turn they can actually move around and try to sabotage and attack things openly instead of in secret. And it also seems like a little bit more of, the fact that you're going around and you have to like gather resources and maintain different sections of the base, whereas the other one was a little bit more straightforward. It was just kind of, we're going to a place, we're doing a mission, hand in your cards. So I don't know that I'm personally really excited. I know a lot of people had issues with the old The Thing game. I personally really liked it. At the very least, I'm not as crazy about the look and art style of this one, but it sounds like maybe it might work on some things in terms of the balance and gameplay that could end up being overall a better experience than the other game.
You mentioned how you can walk off with someone and they can infect you. Do you know how many how many times you can split up? Because I know one of the things with the first board game was it was pretty much, I almost want to say they were acting pretty smart. It was like, all right, everyone stays in this room and that one group goes out so we can keep an eye on everyone.
This one is a little more like, I think you can kind of go wherever you want and group up as much as you want, but while it's dangerous to go with people, but the actions will be easier if you have more people.
Right, but that feels more horror movie-like, splitting into multiple groups, which I think helps with the theming and, that... All right, I'll go with you, Jonathan.
Right.
So that could be something I think adds that extra layer you might want. I'm also curious. I'd love to see now because it's a sort of silly thing, but Among Us is really popular right now, which is a trader game. So I wonder if like a lot of people now are going to back this because of that, because they're looking for a weird trading game. I mean, we've seen plenty on the tabletop area, but it just seems everyone's excited about it now in the video game world.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot right now. Well, you can check it out yourself. It's The Thing, the board game, and it goes for $93 for that core box.
Return to Planet Apocalypse is a Kickstarter for some new expansions in an RPG for Sandy Peterson's Planet Apocalypse, which actually takes place on Earth. The base game was all about hell breaking loose on Earth, and you will actually play as heroes trying to fend off demons coming to swarm the world in a sort of cooperative tower defense game. Their board, depending on which one you're playing on, will have multiple spaces where you get to place troops there that will help you defeat these enemies that are coming through. But you will also control a hero who can, of course, run around and shoot up these demons themselves. And as you progress, you will unlock more different abilities. Some of them are personal, while others you can get items for. Their demons, of course, will also get stronger, and rolling these dice, if they match symbols, that will spawn more. And hopefully you'll be able to make it to the boss, which will be this giant mini, depending on which one you're playing with, whether it be the base or expansion, who will, of course, have its own little board and wreak havoc on you. Now, I will say these two new expansions add just some more minis to the game, as well as there's also some new bosses you can get. But there's also an RPG book, and it's based on 5e rules. And I think one of the reasons this is very nice is Peterson makes these very great but large minis which if you get the RPG, then you sort of already has minis from the board game.
That's nice. Yeah. Yeah. So the RPG is brand new, like based on this world. Is there any like integration between the two? Could you like have a campaign and use the one, like go into a battle and then break out the board game or something? I guess you could if you
I
want
guess
to,
you
but
could. I don't think it's the main thing. I think it's more of just like something and also help, make the minis a much more reasonable purchase because you're buying for
Mhm.
multiple things.
Always
Uh,
good.
it does help because it is on the pricey end, but they are big, really nice minis. And a lot of crazy demons, and probably what you could use for anything. If you have demons, or maybe a doom, if you're doing like a doom scenario for something.
There you go.
But I do like that a lot. I have actually played the original Planet Apocalypse, and I did enjoy it because I've played some other tower defense games, and I just feel like you just sort of wait for troops to hit your towers, and if you did build up there, you're like, well, we missed that wave. It already made past. But because you have your own hero, so to speak, running around and doing things, you sort of have that RPG element attached to it. And that becomes pretty fun to be like, all right, I can heal you or do something this turn because I'm playing this character. And of course, they all have their own faults too. So how can I help your fault? Like if we're choosing our characters to like, you're not very good in this kind of situation, so I'll choose this one who can help fill the gap there. So like any RPG on Kickstarter, we've got some pledge levels for digital and physical. For $19, you can get a digital version of the book. For $59, you can get a physical. If you're just looking for some of those add-ons, they start at $69. But this is a Peterson game with plenty of other minis, so you can pay a whole lot more if you want to.
Now for a couple of smaller picks, I've got Cactus Town from Second Gate Games. It's a Wild West themed programming game in which players are taking on different roles from that era, classic roles that you would think of like the sheriff or the outlaws. And you all have different goals. So you have your own set of cards with their own asymmetric abilities and your own way to win. And on the board, there are face down buildings of different types that are going to be random each time you play. And when you move out and explore, then you'll be flipping them and seeing exactly what they do and what benefits or perhaps negative consequences they offer you. Now, you are playing your cards 3 each round. And like I said, it's a programming game. But after you play your cards, you will then carry those actions out in reverse order. So you have to think about how and when you want to do things and make sure you take into account the fact they're going to be doing these backwards in a sense once the round begins. And everyone has some of their own unique things. For example, the sheriff can put people in jail and the outlaws can go to the edge of the map and attempt to escape, or they can steal stuff from different buildings. And it looks like a relatively light game, and consider for this kind of action programming game, some of them can be a little bit more complex for newcomers, but because there aren't that many actions you can take, you don't have a ton of cards in your hand to choose from. It simplifies things a bit, and the fact that it's asymmetric as well makes it sound like a different kind of a intriguing prospect to me. And it's got a cute little art style. It's not something we haven't seen before, the Wild West, but it just looks like a pleasant, light experience.
The art style's cute, and I think that matches programming well because I think one of the things I love about programming is when things get weird. And you're like, I guess I'm turning this way now or something, so it keeps that sort of light, fun element in there. And I mean, if you'd ever do asymmetrical light, I think that's always great because that adds such replayability. Because once you finish game, you can't be like, oh, I know the strategy. You're like, well, I know the strategy for the sheriff, not not the outlaws. So I hopefully that they pull through with that.
Yeah, a lot of different things going on there. It's called Cactus Town, and you can back it if you like the sound of it for just around $30.
The king of the yokai is dead, and if you want to claim the fire throne, you're going to have to gather your fellow yokai and prove you are the greatest in the night parade of 100 yokai. In this game, you'll choose one of the multiple factions, and then gather yokai of different elements, setting them up in their own little parade, and then use them to try to conquer these islands and hopefully make it to the fire throne. The game works is you'll have these little torii shrines, and once someone has placed them all on the board, that's when the game ends. Now, in order to do all that kind of stuff, you're going to need to put your little meeple onto islands, and if you hit the threshold, you can place a torii gate on there. You're going to be doing that with the help of the other yokai in your groups. Now, when you get a yokai and add it to your party, so to speak, you'll have 3 different lines for the 3 elements. They have to go in the one that they match, and on your turn, you'll choose to activate one of those parades. And once you activate it, you can't choose that again until you've activated one of the other 2. So you always have to be swapping out which actions are available. They, of course, have a bunch of different things, getting more resources to recruit more people, possibly pushing off other meeples, or helping you fly around to some of the other islands. This game looks like a simple but really fun way of just running around in area control, sort of. And there's also secret goals too that will help with points to try to make sure that maybe you think you're in the lead, but then all of a sudden someone reveals that they had more islands with dragons, which helps them put them on top to prove they should be king. And for a fun game like that, in the cute little art, I thought it was something to take a look at.
I think there's room for more yokai in board games. It's not a theme that we always see that much out here in the West. It's really only, I think, penetrated in terms of Yokai Watch.
Right? I was going to say, there's that one Pokemon clone. I can't remember.
Yeah, but and that's been pretty popular. But yeah, it's a cool idea, and it's fun to see all these little guys running around and looking crazy in your cards. So yeah, I think this one sounds fun.
Right now, you can back it for $50, and if you do it within the next, I think, 48 to 24, depending on when we put this up, you will be able to get a playmat for free with it.
If somehow that wasn't enough Kickstarters for you, we have a few more things to talk about quickly. There are some other projects we've done separate videos for. Merchants of Infinity is a very interesting worker placement sci-fi game. We did a preview for it a while back. That is now up on Kickstarter. There is also Escape Death Race 2182 Micro. I almost forgot the title, but I got it, which is a death race game with aliens and fits in a tiny little tin. We did a preview and a how to play for that one. And also today there's a reprint and a new expansion for the game Shaolia Warring States. A 2-player game where you're building cards and engines and facing off against each other. And we just did a review of the original game, so you can watch that to see our full thoughts on it. We'll have links to all that stuff, of course, as we always do, down below.
And of course, this isn't technically Kickstarter, but it's very similar. So we thought we'd mention it. We're going to do a whole separate video on it, so you can watch that too. But Hasbro has announced that they're doing Hero Quest through their Hasbro Lab, which is very much like Kickstarter. It's that backer program with multiple tiers. So if you ever want to join back into the old game of Hero Quest, you can take a look at that as well.
Yeah, let us know in the comments, what are you backing? There are a lot of good ones to choose from this week. Really big week. And until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
This has been Roll for Crit.
If you love board game content, do us a favor, like and subscribe, and support us on Patreon.
Keep watching our content to guarantee you'll top deck a good video.